Hello everyone, and welcome. As a seasoned crime analyst and storyteller, I'm here to unravel the complex details of true crime cases and present them in a way that's both engaging and easy to understand. Today, we're diving deep into the latest developments in the Madeleine McCann case. In a prison cell in Germany, a man sits behind bars, not for the case that the world suspects him of, but for something else entirely. His name is Christian Brückner, and in 2020, he was officially named the prime suspect in the disappearance of 3-year-old Madeleine McCann. Prosecutors believe he may have taken her. But here's the problem. They don't have enough evidence to charge him, and time is running out. He was already serving time for a violent crime in the same region, a crime committed 2 years before Madeleine vanished. Now investigators are racing to build a case. Secret police files reveal unsettling discoveries: children's swimsuits, thousands of hidden images, disturbing short stories, and digital data that may place Brückner exactly where Madeleine was last seen. But is that enough to finally bring him to justice? Or will this man, the suspect at the center of one of the world's most haunting unsolved mysteries, slip away once more? Before we dive deeper, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. It helps us keep uncovering stories like this one. And if you make it to the end, share it with someone who follows true crime. Drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. Let's get into it. May 3rd, 2007. A quiet holiday resort in Praia da Luz, Portugal. Just after 8:30 p.m., Kate and Gerry McCann tucked their 3 children into bed in their ground-floor apartment. Madeleine, just 3 years old, was sleeping alongside her younger twin siblings. The parents then joined friends at a nearby tapas bar, only about 50 meters away. Every 20 to 30 minutes, one of the adults would return to check on the kids. But shortly after 10 o'clock p.m., Kate McCann came back to the apartment. Madeleine was gone. No signs of forced entry. No cries for help. No obvious clues left behind. What followed was a media storm, an international search that would span years, stretch across continents, and captivate the entire world. Despite millions spent and countless leads pursued, no one was ever charged. Madeleine was never found. And then, over a decade later, a name surfaced, one that would shake the case wide open: Christian Brückner. But who is Christian Brückner? Before his name was linked to this case, he was already on the radar of European police, a drifter with a long, troubling criminal history. Born in Bavaria in 1976, Brückner's early life was marked by instability. He was placed in foster care, later adopted, but trouble followed him from a young age. By the age of 15, he had already faced his first conviction for burglary in Würzburg. That was just the beginning of a criminal career that would span more than 3 decades. According to court records and witness testimony, Brückner developed a methodical approach to burglary early on. He would study his targets for days, memorizing routines. When ready, he dressed in all black, wearing a mask with only the eyes cut out. He broke into holiday apartments while tourists were out at dinner, often using tools he had prepared in advance: crowbars, screwdrivers, gloves. One investigator described his tactics as almost military in precision. He wasn't just opportunistic. He was calculated, patient, deliberate. Over the next decades, Brückner faced more than a dozen convictions, ranging from theft, drug trafficking, and possession of exploitative material, to crimes against children. In his teens, he served an 18-month sentence for abusing a young boy. Later, he moved to Portugal, where he lived a transient life in the Algarve, working odd jobs, breaking into holiday apartments, and often living out of a camper van. It was in this very area, Praia da Luz, where Madeleine McCann disappeared in 2007. By 2012, Brückner had quietly returned to Germany, settling in the industrial city of Braunschweig. He purchased a small corner kiosk and lived in the back room. On the surface, it looked like a new beginning, but locals would later describe it as a front for an increasingly unstable lifestyle. Some neighbors recalled seeing children around the shop. Police would later describe it as a place where he could quietly blend in with the community, while still keeping a sense of control over his surroundings. In 2019, Christian Brückner was convicted of a serious and disturbing crime against a 72-year-old American woman. The incident had taken place back in 2005, inside her home in Praia da Luz, the very same resort town where Madeleine McCann would disappear just 2 years later. The details are unsettling. Prosecutors say Brückner broke into the woman's home through a window, restrained her, blindfolded her, and subjected her to a prolonged assault. He even recorded part of the ordeal on a video camera, footage that police later uncovered during a raid of one of his secret hideouts. At the time, no one knew who the attacker was. It took more than a decade before DNA evidence and phone records finally linked Brückner to the crime. He was brought to trial in 2019 and sentenced to 7 years in prison. That sentence is now nearing its end in September 2025. In October 2023, Brückner was acquitted of multiple charges, including 3 other alleged assaults and 2 accusations of crimes against minors in Portugal. His defense team argued that there was no solid evidence, and in the McCann case, no formal charges have ever been filed. Still, German prosecutors maintain that phone data placed him near the scene when Madeleine vanished. They are convinced he knows more than he has admitted. But without stronger proof, the clock is ticking, and there's a real possibility he could walk free. For nearly a decade after Madeleine McCann disappeared, the case seemed to grow cold. Leads dried up, sightings turned out to be false alarms, and tips from around the world led nowhere. That changed in 2017, when Brückner came back into focus, not because of new forensic evidence, but because of a tip that had been overlooked for years. The man who came forward was Helge B., a convicted fraudster and former acquaintance of Brückner. Back in 2008, Helge had called Scotland Yard's Maddie hotline. He claimed he knew someone connected to Madeleine's disappearance and named Christian Brückner. But police never followed up. It wasn't until 2017, almost 10 years later, that Helge tried again. This time, investigators listened. He told them that years earlier, during a casual conversation after a few drinks, Brückner had made a remark that left him shaken. When Helge mentioned Madeleine, Brückner allegedly replied, "She didn't scream." It was vague, offhand, and easy to dismiss. But for investigators, it marked a turning point. Digging deeper into old records, German authorities connected Brückner to a mobile phone that had pinged in Praia da Luz, the resort town where Madeleine disappeared on the very night she went missing in May 2007. The phone had been using a prepaid SIM card, often called a burner phone, that is usually untraceable. But this one was different. Investigators traced a call from that device to another number, a local Portuguese contact. On its own, it didn't prove guilt, but it placed Brückner in the area at the very time Madeleine vanished. Even then, the case wasn't airtight. Brückner had been loosely linked before, and investigators knew that to move forward, they needed more than just location data. They began re-examining everything: his criminal past, the places he had lived, the people he had surrounded himself with, and perhaps most importantly, the hidden traces he had left behind. The more investigators searched, the darker the picture became. In 2016, German police raided an abandoned box factory in Neuwegersleben, Saxony-Anhalt, a property Christian Brückner had once owned. The discovery wasn't random. A man who had adopted a stray dog stumbled upon the building during a walk and tipped off police. Inside, investigators uncovered what they described as a disturbing time capsule of Brückner's past. Police found a stash hidden beneath the remains of his deceased dog. Inside were USB sticks and hard drives containing thousands of images and videos. Some revealed exploitative material, some displayed unsettling fantasies, and others went further. Stories, writings, and notes describing fictional scenarios of abductions involving very young girls. Investigators also uncovered troubling physical items. Among them were swimsuits in extremely small sizes, clothing intended for children far too young to understand. One photo showed Brückner lying in bed with a baby doll posed in a way that raised immediate concern. But what unsettled investigators even more came later. In the years that followed, German authorities discovered encrypted chat logs in which Brückner allegedly discussed in disturbing detail how one might abduct a child without leaving evidence. He described methods of sedation, concealment, and ways to avoid detection. Prosecutors argue these messages reveal a calculated mindset, a step-by-step guide to committing harm. Brückner's defense team has tried to question their authenticity, but investigators were struck by the specificity and the tone. The troubling profile didn't stop there. Others stepped forward with their own accounts. One witness claimed Brückner had once shown him a video of a woman being assaulted. Another said he had talked about building a hidden room. And then there was Helga B., a former acquaintance who had already tipped off police years earlier. He later claimed Brückner had outright confessed to abducting Madeleine. But Helga's credibility was questionable. He's a convicted fraudster and drug trafficker, a man with plenty of reasons to lie. Still, his claims reopened a case the world had nearly given up on. The case against Brückner doesn't rest on a single piece of evidence. It's a pattern. Prosecutors have tied him to a series of troubling offenses around Praia da Luz. They point to his long history of voyeurism, break-ins, and inappropriate behavior, often in tourist areas, often involving vulnerable young people. The locations, the timing, the files, the unsettling comments, none of it is a single smoking gun. But together they form a mosaic. German prosecutors believe they are close. Yet critics argue that without direct forensic evidence linking Brückner to Madeleine, such as DNA, a reliable witness, or a confession, the case may never reach trial. And unless something changes, Christian Brückner could be released from prison as early as September 2025. The question remains, will authorities finally close the case that has haunted the world for nearly 2 decades? Or will the man they believe responsible walk free once again? For all the troubling materials and disturbing coincidences, one critical issue still lingers. There is still no physical proof directly connecting Christian Brückner to the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. No DNA. No confirmed eyewitness. No undeniable piece of evidence. This is the prosecution's greatest challenge. His past, his presence near the scene, the materials found in his possession. None of it proves beyond doubt that he abducted Madeleine. It paints a compelling, even terrifying circumstantial picture. But in court, that may not be enough. Without something definitive, something forensic, a conviction could be impossible. His defense team knows this. They've dismissed the entire investigation as a media spectacle and accused prosecutors of clinging to a theory they can't prove. One of Brückner's lawyers, Friedrich Fulcher, told reporters the accusations are built on speculation. He claims investigators are being driven by pressure, not by proof. Brückner himself has broken his silence. From his prison cell, he's written multiple letters insisting on his innocence. In one, he called the investigation a witch hunt. In another, he claimed the so-called evidence is fabricated and that he's being targeted because of his past. not because of anything that happened in Praia da Luz. In one handwritten note, he scrawled a phrase that made international headlines. "You can never imagine what it's like when the whole world believes you are guilty of hurting a child, and you are not." But Brückner's letters go beyond protest. In some, he taunts investigators. In others, he slips into almost theatrical reflections, as if playing to the audience. It's difficult to tell whether his words are the cries of an innocent man or the calculated performance of someone who knows exactly how to manipulate attention. For prosecutors, the challenge is clear. Can they prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this man, already convicted of serious crimes, also took a child from her bed and vanished without a trace? And if they can't, what happens next? German prosecutors are now racing against the clock. Christian Brückner's current sentence for the 2005 assault of a 72-year-old woman is set to end as early as September 2025. And unless they can bring formal charges in the Madeleine McCann case, there may be nothing stopping him from walking out of prison. Someone has already taken steps to make that possibility even more real. Not long ago, an anonymous individual quietly paid Brückner's bail for unrelated fraud charges, without explanation. The move raised serious questions. Who would put up money for a man with this kind of past? And why now? There is still no indictment, no confirmed trial date, only prosecutors promising that charges are coming soon. But we've heard that before. If Brückner walks free without facing a courtroom for what happened to Madeleine, he could disappear all over again, just like she did. Only this time, he might have the resources and motivation to vanish permanently. And even if he's not responsible for what happened in Praia da Luz in 2007, is this the kind of man society can afford to release? A man with a long history of predatory behavior. A man convicted of assaulting an elderly woman and suspected in other disturbing offenses involving children. Whether or not he is Madeleine's abductor, his history cannot be denied. Should someone like that ever be free again? This case has stretched across nearly 2 decades, 3 countries, and countless twists, yet still no clear answers. Which brings us to the haunting question. Is Christian Brückner the man responsible for Madeleine McCann's disappearance? Or just another name in a long and frustrating list of suspects who never faced full justice? Now I want to hear from you. How do you feel about this case after all these years? Do you believe prosecutors will finally have enough to stop him before time runs out? If you were in my shoes, how would you decode this story? With suspicion, doubt, or conviction? And most importantly, if justice is still possible for Madeleine McCann, what should be done before it's too late? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think prosecutors will have enough to stop him before it's too late? And if you want more in-depth true crime stories like this one, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because the story might be old, but justice still hasn't arrived. Thanks for watching.